People hear Amish bedroom rules and they assume it's all about control. But if you've ever lived close to that world, you learn something fast. A lot of what outsiders call strict rules are really guardrails, not because Amish couples don't feel desire, romance, or curiosity. They do. It's because they believe marriage only stays strong when it stays private, humble, and protected from outside influence. So let me ask you something right away. If nobody could ever brag about your relationship, post it, hint at it, joke about it, or turn it into entertainment, would it still feel as strong? Because that question is a big part of the Amish mindset. In this video, I'm going to share 6 common no-nos people talk about when it comes to Amish intimacy, and I'm going to explain why they exist, not to shame anyone, not to sensationalize it, just to finally make it make sense. My name is Eliza. I'm ex-Amish and I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'm going to talk about this like a real person, not like a rumor channel. First no-no is no public displays of affection. This is one of the easiest to understand once you see their values. In many Amish communities, affection is private. That means even married couples usually avoid kissing, hugging, or being physically romantic in front of others. Not because they don't love each other, but because love isn't meant to be performed. The Amish don't like anything that draws attention to the individual. They value humility, they value quietness, and they believe romance becomes cheap when it becomes public. So the no here isn't no affection, it's no showing it off. The goal is to keep marriage from becoming a show and keep the community from becoming a place where people compare each other's relationships. Second no-no is no sex before marriage and strong boundaries during courtship. This one is not a secret. In Amish teaching, sex belongs inside marriage, but the part outsiders miss is the reason behind it. They believe sex bonds two people in a way that isn't meant to be casual. It's spiritual, emotional, and it carries consequences. So they want it tied to commitment. That's why courtship has boundaries. Modesty in clothing, modesty in behavior, modesty in conversation. The goal is to protect young people from getting pulled into situations where emotion and desire run ahead of wisdom. Now, you may have heard stories about something called bundling. What matters is this. The Amish idea of courtship is that it should be serious, focused, and pointed toward marriage, not a long season of casual physical experimenting. Even when they allowed closeness, it was usually surrounded by expectations, family oversight, and a hard line against crossing into sex. Third no-no is no pornography and no bringing outside fantasies into the marriage. This one is huge, and it's not because Amish people are ignorant about temptation, it's because they're realistic about it. In Amish life, the mind is treated like a doorway. What you feed it becomes what you crave, and if you train your brain to chase constant novelty, you can start seeing your real spouse like they're not enough. That's not just a moral concern, that's a marriage stability concern. So the boundary here is meant to protect contentment, to protect loyalty, and to keep intimacy from turning into performance pressure. And I'll tell you something plainly. In communities where privacy is everything, even talking about sexual content casually is seen as poisoning the atmosphere, not because people are fragile, but because they believe those conversations don't stay just talk. They spread. They become jokes. They become comparisons, and comparisons destroy peace. Fourth no-no is no, everything is about me, intimacy. This is where a lot of outsiders misunderstand Amish marriage. Amish couples often grow up with the idea that marriage is less about personal fulfillment and more about responsibility, teamwork, and commitment. So intimacy is not framed as a hobby, a personal identity, or a constant chase for self-expression. It's framed as something that belongs inside a bigger life: faith, family, chores, work, community, and long-term stability. That's why anything that turns intimacy into selfishness is viewed as dangerous. If the bedroom becomes a place where one person dominates, demands, or constantly pushes the other, the marriage suffers. And in Amish culture, marriage suffering doesn't just affect two people, it affects children, relatives, church life, and the community's harmony. So the no here is basically no turning your spouse into your toy, no treating intimacy like a power game, no using it to control, punish, or manipulate. Fifth no-no is no artificial birth control in many groups and no casual attitude about creating life. This is one of the most sensitive topics, so I'm going to say it carefully. In many Amish communities, large families are normal, and many consider children to be a blessing they should not deliberately block with modern methods. Not every Amish group handles this exactly the same way, and not every couple lives it out perfectly, but culturally, the pressure is often toward openness to children, and that changes the whole atmosphere of intimacy. It's It's not risk-free fun in the modern sense. It's tied to consequences, to responsibility, to the reality that marriage can create life, and life deserves seriousness. So for outsiders, it can look harsh, but for many Amish couples, it's consistent with their belief that marriage is not supposed to be managed like a personal lifestyle brand. It's supposed to be lived with humility and trust. Sixth no-no is no talking about bedroom details with other people. This might be the biggest shock for modern audiences because today people share everything: friends, group chats, podcasts, social media, even couples joking publicly about their sex life like it's normal conversation. In Amish culture, that's not just inappropriate, it's unthinkable. The bedroom is considered private, sacred space. You don't talk about it with friends, you don't hint about it to get attention, you don't use it as comedy. And here's the reason that nobody says out loud: because once couples start talking, they start comparing. And once they start comparing, someone starts feeling not good enough. Someone starts feeling ashamed. Someone starts feeling pressured to perform. Someone starts feeling resentment. So the Amish boundary is meant to protect peace. Now let me slow down and say something important. When I say no-nos, I'm not saying every Amish couple is the same. I'm not saying there's a rule book in every home with 6 items listed out. A lot of this is cultural expectation, church teaching, family example, and community pressure. And yes, Amish couples still struggle. Some have painful marriages, some have quiet loneliness, some have problems they don't know how to talk about because their culture doesn't encourage open discussion of private issues. So I'm not romanticizing it. But I also won't mock it, because there's a truth here that modern culture forgets. Privacy can protect intimacy. Boundaries can keep love from turning into performance. And seriousness can keep desire from turning into chaos. So when someone asks, why would an Amish couple follow these bedroom no-nos? The real answer is usually this: because they believe love is something you guard, not something you advertise. They believe marriage is something you serve, not something you constantly test. And they believe peace is worth more than excitement. And here's the question I want to leave you with. If your relationship feels tired, if it feels distracted, if it feels like there's always noise around it, what would happen if you brought back one Amish idea, even just one? Not the clothes, not the buggy, not the whole lifestyle, just one idea. What if you made your relationship more private? What if you stopped comparing? What if you stopped turning intimacy into a performance? What if you treated your marriage like a small fire that stays alive longer when you protect it from wind? I'm Eliza, ex-Amish from Pennsylvania, and if you want more videos where I explain Amish life in a way that's honest, respectful, and realistic, subscribe and stay with me. And in the comments, tell me which one surprised you most, not to judge it, just to talk about it like grown adults for once.